Welcome to RMU Live. Today is Friday, February 28th. I'm Isabella Harris.
And I am Brett McGulick.
On Wednesday, U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts paused a federal judge order that required the Trump administration to pay $2 billion in foreign funds to contractors by midnight. This came after the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court for an emergency order to block the release of U.S. aid funding. The Trump administration said it was eliminating more than 90% of U.S. aid's foreign aid contracts and $60 billion in overall U.S. assistance around the world.
Yesterday, President Donald Trump stated that 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods are set to take effect on the 4th. Still, the president also announced that he plans on imposing a 10% increase on Chinese imports, effective on the same date. Mexico, China, and Canada are all America's top 3 trade partners. Implementing tariffs on these countries simultaneously could skyrocket the prices of everyday life for the average American. President Trump has tied these tariffs to illegal immigration and the drug flow problem in the country, saying, quote, "Drugs are still pouring into our country from Mexico and Canada at a very high and unacceptable levels," end quote. President Trump has been very active since returning to office in January, especially with reshaping the economy. But some Americans are very hesitant about some of these new changes. For more information, we go to Amy Kiley.
Americans are starting to see a new economic reality under President Donald Trump. Take tariffs, for instance, with Trump confirming yesterday he still plans to impose 25% duties on Mexican and Canadian imports. Tariffs on Chinese goods are in place now, and Trump says reciprocal ones are in the works.
It is a drive to bring back manufacturing, to protect our great jobs here.
Economists say tariffs support domestic producers by making U.S. businesses pay extra for imports. In light of new ones, Apple and Eli Lilly say they're investing billions of dollars in U.S. manufacturing. On the other hand, recent surveys show tariffs are causing concern about inflation.
Consumers are telling us that they're getting a bit more worried about the future.
Republican efforts to lower the deficit are making waves too.
The new reality is less government, more efficiency, better return for the taxpayers.
Part of that is a new House resolution that calls for massive and controversial spending cuts. It also contains sweeping tax breaks that aren't sitting well with some fiscal hawks.
The deficit's going to go up.
Large-scale layoffs of federal workers are another part of the plan to reduce spending. Some analysts worry they could backfire.
Are literally some of the firings just in the federal government, which has 10 million workers, is that going to be enough to cause a recession?
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
The economic decisions made so far during Trump's second term have been controversial ones, with some Americans optimistic and others not so much. But the Trump administration ensures, quote, better returns for the taxpayer, end quote.
Jobless claims have spiked the U.S. Labor Department. There are an estimated 242,000 jobless claims filed at least of last week. It has been a 22,000 increase since last week before. It's the largest weekly spike in the claims in more than 4 months. The IRS is starting the layoff of thousands of employees. We're going to send it over to Karen Kafa for more details.
Last week, the IRS was expected to start layoffs of more than 6,000 employees as part of the Trump administration's broader cuts to the federal workforce at the agency's busiest time of year.
We know that when the IRS is understaffed, as it was in the 2010s, it makes refunds slower. It means they have a hard time answering their phones if you've got questions.
Vanessa Williamson, a senior fellow in governance studies at the Brookings Institution, says the cuts could impact important taxpayer resources.
There's some evidence that a lot of the cuts are going to come to people who help small business owners who have some of the most complicated taxes of anyone. So if you haven't filed, I recommend you file as soon as possible.
Tom O'Sabin, Director of Tax Content and Government Relations at the National Association of Tax Professionals, says amid leaner IRS staffing, taxpayers should try to limit the need for person-to-person contact with the agency.
What it means is if there's any possibility to electronically file your return, do so. Whether you're using a tax professional or you're filing or you're on your own, or you use the direct file system, which is relatively new at the IRS, try to submit your return electronically.
O'Sabin adds that careful preparation can also minimize omissions and errors that could take longer to correct. And no matter the headlines, he says, to complete that return.
In reading a lot of these social media posts and the like, there's been some talk about waiting to file or don't bother to file. I think that's a fool's recommendation.
In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Thanks, Karen. To save all the hassle, they are urging you to file your taxes as soon as possible.
Since the announcement of Trump's tariffs yesterday, concerns are stirring about the inflation and economic uncertainty among citizens. While the administration ties these measures to illegal migration and fentanyl tracking, the economic ripples are already being felt. Consumer confidence saw the steepest drop since 2021, and retail sales fell 0.9% in January, the first decline in 6 months. Economists largely blame the drop on cold weather, not a broader consumer pullback. But Walmart has warned their customers of slower sales and profit growth due to inflation and the high borrowing costs. Some experts fear the weakening consumer sentiment could weigh on spending, which drives 70% of the economy. The Commerce Department will release fuller analysis on consumer spending later today. One of the biggest concerns citizens have about these has been the skyrocket in the price of eggs. Let's head over to the Bronx to learn more.
In the Bronx, the borough where I grew up, we headed to Pamela's Green Deli,
Good to see you.
where the price of eggs is a red-hot topic.
Now it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's horrible.
What are you thinking about egg prices these days?
They're too expensive. I haven't eaten eggs in about a month.
Okay, that's incredible. Did you used to eat a lot of eggs?
Every day. My children too, not anymore.
You know, it's crazy that we can't afford eggs. It's a good thing that the owner's doing, though. He's selling eggs loose so that the community have access to them.
Selling eggs loose, 3 at a time, instead of a dozen.
So I heard you're doing something special here, something a little bit different, so that people can actually get the eggs that they need to.
Instead of selling the dozen for $12, $11, we decided to sell loose eggs, you know, like this package. Okay. $2.99 for these 3 eggs. Sometimes the people only have probably $20, $25. If they're spending $12 just in eggs, so it's going to be difficult for them to buy the rest of the stuff, you know, like a bread, butter, oil, all the things that they need to cook.
Are people telling you that they really like?
They buying. They're buying. A lot of people coming and they buy it and they happy because we did that. It reminds me from where I'm coming from. I'm coming from Dominican Republic, and this is what I used to do over there, working in the grocery store.
With eggs being so crucial to many people's daily lives, many Americans hope this issue will be resolved.
President Donald Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer may be at odds regarding Russia, and all this and more when we return.
That's so.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting.
and even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
and banding together,
we should still make an effort.
We should still make an effort
to get to know each other
on a deeper level. Father,
cosplayer,
mentor,
actor.
It's time we take a step forward.
It's time we take a step forward.
Come together
and discover
how accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
Yeah! Sam, Elmo!
Oh, hey, Julia. Are you ready to play band with us? I'm gonna play my clarinet.
And Elmo's gonna play his drum. Drum loud.
Oh, well, you know what to do, Julia.
Julia knows.
Mm-hmm. With Julia's autism, loud sounds can be too much.
But she still loves to make music. Play band.
Early screening for autism can make a lifetime of difference. Find out more at screenforautism.org.
If you love them enough to crawl into a play place to get them to come down, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
Welcome back to RMU Live. President Donald Trump, as well as the entire Trump administration, has been making waves this week. Let's take a deeper dive. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces a high-stakes mission in Washington, aiming to secure U.S. security guarantees for Ukraine and salvage the transatlantic alliance. Starmer hopes to sway President Donald Trump, who recently dismissed robust U.S. commitments to Ukraine, insisting Europe should take the lead on this one. This comes after French President Emmanuel Macron's similar efforts failed to produce results. Starmer warns that without U.S. backing, any peace deal risks collapse.
The United States has joined Russia to vote against a UN General Assembly resolution condemning Russia's war against Ukraine. Monday, in a stunning shift from years of policy, the U.S. ended up holding back on the vote for its own resolution. The General Assembly, after several amendments were passed ahead of the vote to, quote, reaffirm Ukraine's territorial integrity, end quote. Ukraine President Zelensky marked the 3-year anniversary by hosting European leaders at a war memorial in Kyiv. We're going to send it over to reporter Cheryl Hubbard for more.
Ukrainians say it's been a long 3 years.
I feel incredibly tired.
We have undergone a very big transformation.
Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky marked the 3-year anniversary by hosting European leaders at a war memorial in Kyiv. With somber expressions, the leaders placed lanterns to honor the fallen. On X, Zelensky proclaimed his, quote, eternal gratitude to the fallen heroes. He said 3 years of resistance, 3 years of gratitude, 3 years of absolute heroism of Ukrainians. In the U.S., President Donald Trump hosted a world leader of his own.
I think we should never say, I will never send any boots on the ground, because you give a blank check to violate any type of commitment.
France's president met with Trump in the Oval Office and stressed the importance of Trump standing firm against Putin. This as the U.S. joined Russia to vote against the United Nations General Assembly resolution condemning the war against Ukraine, putting the U.S. at odds with its longtime European allies. Just last week, President Trump falsely accused Ukraine of starting the war.
Instead of standing up to Putin, Donald Trump is siding with him and against our own allies. Instead of condemning Putin's lies, Donald Trump is parroting Russian misinformation.
Democrats in Washington condemning the U.S.'s about-face on the Russia-Ukraine war as Ukraine's future hangs in the balance. I'm Cheryl Hubbard reporting.
Thanks, Cheryl. More to come in this story as President Trump hosts President Zelensky at the White House today.
President Donald Trump unveiled a bold new plan Tuesday, announcing the U.S. will sell a so-called gold card to wealthy foreigners for $5 million each. The card grants the right to live and work in the U.S., plus a path to citizenship. Trump says sales will start in 2 weeks, predicting millions could be sold, even hinting Russian oligarchs might be buyers, calling some, quote, very nice people, end quote. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says gold card will replace the EB-5 visa program, with buyers facing betting to exposure their, quote, world-class global citizens, end quote. The move's already sparking debate over who qualifies and who can pay.
Homeland Security has arrested more than 20,000 undocumented illegal immigrants under President Trump's administration. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said in a statement on Wednesday, quote, hundreds of thousands of criminals were let into this country illegally. We are sending them home and will never be allowed to return, end quote.
The Trump administration is keeping quiet about truly leading the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Headed by Elon Musk, President Trump chose Musk to oversee major federal cuts. But now officials say Musk's role is limited and he's not an employee, though they won't identify the civil servant in charge. State attorney generals have filed a lawsuit calling Musk, quote, an agent of chaos with excessive power, end quote. The Justice Department says he only advises Trump, but couldn't name DOGE's administrator in court. To address this recent and somewhat concerning news, Elon Musk was asked to speak and take questions at the White House. Reporter Julia Benbrook has the story.
The cabinet meeting attendee receiving the most attention is not actually a member of Trump's cabinet. It's tech billionaire Elon Musk. According to the White House, the secretaries and their staff are in regular communication with Musk on his efforts to reduce the size of the federal government. While Musk, a special government employee, was not seated at the table with the secretaries, he was in the room and was asked to speak and take questions shortly after Trump started the meeting.
Elon is here to give you a summary of what's happening, some of the things they found, some of the horrible things they found, some of the theft and fraud, and we call it waste and abuse.
This after Musk's weakened guidance that federal employees would be required to respond to an email with an outline of what they did last week, or it would be seen as a resignation. Several of the secretaries then instructed their workers not to respond. Prior to today's meeting, Trump took to social media to say, quote, "All cabinet members are extremely happy with Elon. The media will see that at the cabinet meeting this morning."
Let the cabinet speak just for a second. Is anybody unhappy with Elon? If you are, well, throw him out of here.
During the meeting, Trump did admit that some of the department heads disagree a little bit with Musk. A White House official says that the goal of today's meeting was to touch base and to ensure that Trump's agency heads are, quote, rowing in the right direction. At the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
The White House suggests the new administrator will be Amy Gleason, though details remain vague. A judge allowed DOGE to continue for now, but the debate over Musk's authority persists.
Monitors in the TVs in the Department of Housing and Urban Development quarters were reportedly hacked on Monday morning. An artificial intelligence known as AI video was made up of President Trump kissing Elon Musk's feet, with writing over it that stated, quote, "Long live the real king," end quote. Casey Lovett, a HUD spokesperson, told Forbes, quote, "The video was another waste of taxpayer dollars and resources, and that appropriate action would be taken," end quote. RMU Century Media is your go-to outlet for sports, news, and entertainment, and more. You can go online to rmucenturymedia.com for all the latest RMU sporting events, updates, along with local and national news stories.
When we come back, March is here, and the madness starts in the Horizon League. So don't go anywhere.
It's been difficult because I hadn't been able to see my grandchildren.
I can't wait to get back to field trips with my school.
Not having to think about putting on a mask.
I really can't wait to get back to life, really.
I miss all my friends. I miss taking pictures in school.
An expression on someone's face when you do something nice for them.
COVID-19 vaccines are available, and they're the first step to safely getting back to things we miss most. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision about COVID-19 vaccines.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 30 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people.
It's time to make an informed decision about COVID-19 vaccines. The dangerous new Delta variant is more than twice as contagious as the original virus and can affect anyone. Right now, 9 out of 10 hospitalizations and deaths from COVID are among unvaccinated people. Getting vaccinated might save your life, and there's now an option that's fully approved by the FDA. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear, because for years he's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But there's a lot more to say. Like, if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Welcome back to RMU Live. Could we finally be moving away from the snowy weather? We're going to send it over to Bethany for all the weather reports.
Thank you, Isabella. Hello, everyone. I am Bethany Nunn, your weather girl or your weather woman. And let's take a look at today's forecast. It's going to be a high of 47 degrees with a low of 39. It's going to be humidity is going to be 63, and then chance of precipitation is going to be 24. And on to tomorrow's forecast, it's going to be raining in the morning, so please, please, please make sure you got your rain gear because you don't want to be wet. No one likes wet socks. But it is going to clear up, and it's going to be cloudy with a chance of meatballs. No, I'm just kidding. I meant just cloudy. And then it's going to be 43 degrees with a low of 17. Humidity is going to be 62, and chance of precipitation 54. And then on to our 5-day forecast. On Sunday, it's going to be cloudy with a high of 29 with a low of 14. Monday is going to be once again partially cloudy with a high of 39 with a low of 29. Tuesday is going to be cloudy with a high of 54 with a low of 46, so it's going to be a little bit more warm outside. And then on to Wednesday, it's going to be raining once again, so please make sure you got your rain gear on standby. And it's going to be a high of 59 with a low of 35. And Thursday, I think we're back in the winter wonderland all over again. It's going to be snowy with a high of 37 with a low of 27. And that is the whole entire weather. Send it right back to the desk.
Thanks, Bethany. You may be putting your snow gear away for the season, but don't forget to leave the house without an umbrella.
Well, we've been alluding to it. It's been a busy week here at Bobby Moe. Playoff hockey, playoff basketball, and the beginning of spring sports. Josh Woseman has the inside scoop on all things Colonial sports.
Thanks, guys. Now, with the weather getting nicer and sun getting brighter, that means spring is finally upon us. But before we get to April showers or May flowers, we have to get through March, undoubtedly the most anticipated month in college athletics. Both RMU basketball teams are gearing up for the big dance, with both programs having secured a first-round bye. Starting with the men's team, who last night continued to exude their dominance over the Horizon League, this time beating IU Indy at the Jaguars' place. While the win means the Colonials have locked up their first-ever Horizon League regular season championship, it might be bittersweet in the long run as Alvaro Fulgaris came off injured in the second half and didn't return. We'll wait to see if the Spaniard is ready to go when RMU meets their next opponent in the quarterfinals at home next Thursday night. The women's team, much like the men, have been equally dominant as of lately. On Wednesday night, the Colonials defeated rivals Youngstown State 76-53 to guarantee at least the 5th seed in the Horizon League tournament. If RMU want to have a home playoff game, they need to win their last remaining game against Wright State, who they've already beat by 21 this season. Moving from the event center to the Joe, men's and women's lacrosse are back in action, with both teams struggling to find their feet this season. Coming off their MAC championship win last year, the women's lacrosse team has struggling so far after losses to George Washington and St. Mary's this week. The Colonials sit at a record of 1-4 in a matchup with the Ohio State Buckeyes on the horizon. While the odds are stacked against RMU, if there's ever a point to spark your season, this will be it. That matchup is scheduled for 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. As for the men's team, though, they've turned their season right around. After starting the season 0-2, the Colonials picked up close wins against St. Bonaventure and Canisius to bring their record to 2-2. They'll face arch rivals Hobart in what is a for-sure game to watch this weekend. The Colonials and Statesmen have seen over 20 goals in their last 4 matchups against one another, so definitely an exciting doubleheader weekend for the lacrosse programs. Finally, to the ice. The women's hockey team put an end to their dismal season this weekend, but not without a valiant effort. The Colonials led third-ranked Syracuse late into the third period, but a surge from the Orange proved too strong, and the Colonials fell 3-2 in double overtime. The men's team will get their taste of postseason action when they take on Air Force for their 3rd straight game. The Colonials tied 1 and lost 1 when they met last weekend at the Island, and now will travel to Denver for another exciting matchup against the Falcons on Saturday night. That's all I have for you guys today. Be sure to catch up next week to see all the results of these games and more. Back to Brett and Isabella.
Thanks, Josh. Looks like this weekend is going to be a fun one. If you can't make it to the games, you can always follow along on the RMU Game Day app. Stay up to date and on a March full of sports. Like what you're watching? Check out the RMU-TV shows happening next week. Army Focus leads the way on Monday, followed by Sports Talk in the Berg on Wednesday afternoon. And Colonial Sports Center will be taking a new time slot this week, taking place on Wednesday night at 9:30. Check out the RMU-TV YouTube and Facebook for more. We're going to take a little break, but when we come back, a woman has been hit by a U-Haul? Learn the full story when we return to RMU Live.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off. I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
You told me not to talk to strangers. You told me not to cross the street without looking both ways.
You told me not to touch the stove.
You told me not to do drugs.
You told me not to drink and drive.
You gave me so many messages about how to stay safe. Why didn't you keep me safe by properly storing your gun?
Welcome back to RMU Live. It's been an interesting and busy week in the Pittsburgh area. An elderly woman is in critical condition after being struck by a U-Haul truck in the Homewood neighborhood of Pittsburgh. The incident happened at the intersection of Brushton Avenue and Hamilton Avenue in Homewood around 2:30 p.m. The U-Haul truck fled the scene and was later recovered on Clark Street in Wilkinsburg. This investigation is still ongoing as the police are still searching for the suspect and working to determine if he hit the woman intentionally.
Allegheny County dispatchers responded to a scene on Wednesday afternoon where they found a vehicle and a bus collided head-on. Dispatchers stated the crash happened at the intersection of Mifflin Road and Slate Road in Pittsburgh around 4 p.m. on Wednesday. The driver of the vehicle was unresponsive and possibly suffered a medical emergency in the crash. There were no passengers on the bus and the driver was uninjured.
A man is dead after a shooting occurred in a McKeesport bar on Wednesday afternoon. Allegheny County Police were called to the Tube City Cafe on 5th Avenue around 11:50 a.m. The victim was inside the bar when a second man walked in and an argument started, and the suspect then pulled out a gun and was shot. The victim was shot multiple times. The suspect has been identified as Floyd Noel and is facing multiple charges.
Legendary Hollywood actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa were found dead in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home on Wednesday. When investigators arrived at the scene, the couple was found in separate rooms, and according to the sheriff's office, one of their dogs was also found dead. It remains unclear how Hackman and Arakawa died, and the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office has not determined a cause of death. As of yesterday, officials have found no signs of foul play are apparent, and an autopsy found no external trauma on either Hackman or Arakawa. Northern Swickley police filed nearly 40 criminal charges after it came out that a woman had a relationship with a student, the 29-year-old Elena Marshall, a student therapist and a swim coach at Riverside High School. Allegheny allegedly was in a relationship with a student on the school swim team. Where sexual relations took place on school grounds, the relationship reportedly lasted 2 years, and the student was just 16 years old.
Thank you for watching RMU Live. We hope you have a great weekend.
Stay safe.